Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I didn't want to wear the dark suit. It's the one I reserve for weddings and weddings that feel like funerals, and now for an actual funeral, the kind where everyone pretends the weather matters and the food afterward will help. We were early, because Linda is always early and because I had run out of excuses to be late. The church smelled the way old churches do, lemon oil, dust motes suspended in light, wax that's been melted and scraped and melted again. People came up to us to say the right things in the right order. "So sorry, such a loss, he was too young, how are you holding up?" We nodded and thanked them and made that face you make when you're in someone else's grief but understand it too well. Jack arrived with a tie he hadn't ironed since his high school graduation and a haircut that said "I did this myself." He shook my hand in the way 23-year-olds shake hands with their fathers when they're trying to be men and boys at the same time. Emma came in from the parking lot like a breeze that didn't know it had to behave for a church, eyes red, chin up, a black dress that looked like it had been folded at the bottom of her suitcase since sophomore year. She hugged me hard and then pulled away quickly, like touch had turned hot. The casket at the front was closed. That felt right for this friend, Derek, who had always been more voice than face, more jokes and updates than body. The program had a picture of him in a fishing hat, squinting at the camera like he didn't recognize the man being asked to be respectable. The hymn numbers on the wall were crooked by one digit. I wanted to fix them. I didn't. People drifted and we hadn't seen in years. That's what death does, opens a door people forgot they had a key to. A couple from the old neighborhood. A guy from the hockey league who still calls me Bobby even though the last person allowed to do that died in 1994. Linda moved among them with her practiced grace, touching hands, squeezing elbows, remembering the names of children and dogs and dead plants. She was good at this. She's always been good at this. Sometimes I forget that's part of why I loved her. We took our seats, front third, right aisle. I looked at the stained glass and tried not to assign meaning to the colors. The pastor spoke with that soft certainty pastors have, the kind that can be soothing when you forget it can also be lazy. He talked about the hole Derek left and the one who fills holes and the way we carry each other when the load is too heavy for one set of arms. I believed half of it and wanted to believe more. I sang the hymn without looking at the words because at 53 you collect more lyrics than friends. It happened at the reception, not the service. People were still in their polite black and dark blue, holding small plates of triangular sandwiches and funeral cookies that taste like childhood because grief and sugar shop at the same store. The parish hall felt like every parish hall, drop ceiling, coffee that had been made for soldiers, a carpet the color of old rain. I was standing with Jack and Emma and Linda by the photo board, Derek with his kids, Derek in a Halloween costume that didn't age as well as he thought, Derek with me in a selfie we took because we were too old to be good at it. We were talking about how he always burned the burgers and swore it was the grill's fault, when a man I didn't know stepped up to us with the careful smile of someone about to ask for directions. "Excuse me," he said, and his voice was soft enough to pass church muster. He was around my age, maybe a year or two younger, in a suit that fit too well for a funeral, with a face I would have remembered if it had ever bought me a beer. He looked at Jack. "You're Jack, right? And Emma?" Jack's chin lifted a degree, a reflex he learned from me. Emma tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Yeah," Jack said. "Can we help you?" The man looked at Linda, and something happened in her face that I won't try to name. Her eyes flicked to the door and back, and a muscle in her cheek remembered a job from long ago. He smiled again, but this time the smile looked like it wanted to be something else. "I'm sorry," he said. "This is probably a terrible time. He looked down at his hands like they could offer him a better script. "I'm Ben." He said the name like he wasn't sure he should. "I knew your mother. A while back." The air in the room shifted half a degree. People kept walking past, plates, coffee, that murmur of communal sadness, but our small circle went quieter than sound. Linda's hand, which had been on Emma's shoulder, dropped to her side. "Your friends?" Emma asked, not unkindly. She has her mother's good manners and my suspicion. "We were," he said. "Friends." He looked at Linda again, and this time he didn't look away. "From before." "Ben," Linda said, her voice so practiced I could have used it to measure lines. "This isn't." "I know," he said. I know it isn't. 1,000 possibilities sprinted through my head and collided with each other. A co-worker from a job she had in 2013. Someone from the PTA who once brought gluten-free muffins, and a story about a son who collects rocks that look like presidents. A cousin from a wing of a family we avoid. The idea landed before I could offer it permission. "You're the one," Emma said. She said it with the precision of a scalpel. Jack inhaled sharply, like he'd been hit in the ribs by an invisible branch. I watched Linda swallow her face and try to put it back on. Ben lifted a hand as if to calm a dog. "I shouldn't have said anything," he said. When I saw you, I recognized you from pictures. Your mother talked about you. A lot." Emma looked at Linda. "Mom?" "I have known Linda since she was 19. I can tell when she's about to laugh and when she's about to cry and when she's about to make a joke to keep you from seeing the first two. She didn't do any of those." She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with the funeral and everything to do with the weight of a story finally choosing its landing. "It was years ago," she said. Before, she stopped. "It was a while." She looked at me and then at the floor because I have never been good at letting people finish sentences they shouldn't have started. Ben stepped back, like he'd remembered the rule about not speaking the truth at volumes that break glass. "I just wanted to pay my respects," he said, and I almost laughed at the phrasing. Respect is the currency we run out of first. I don't remember making a face or a sound. I don't remember what my hands were doing. I remember that the air felt thin and the ceiling closer, that the smell of coffee turned into something sharp. Jack said, "Dad?" without moving his mouth. Emma took a step toward Linda and then away, like the floor had become a chessboard and someone had changed the rules. "Can we?" I said, and my voice sounded like I'd been running. "Can we talk somewhere else?" Ben nodded, too eagerly. Linda looked at him in a way that told me everything I didn't want confirmed. "Yeah, that's him." He put his hands up, "Surrender." We found a hallway off the parish hall, the kind lined with bulletin boards and photos of youth groups doing things outside with matching t-shirts. There was a door to a storage closet propped open with a vacuum cleaner. I thought about going in there, closing the door, and waiting for the building to collapse in a polite Midwestern way. Emma leaned her back against the wall and crossed her arms like armor. Jack stood with his hands in his pockets but his shoulders forward, the stance of a boy who learned to fight only because the world made it sometimes seem necessary. Linda stood between them and me because she has always occupied the middle, even when it was the worst real estate. Ben stayed by the end of the hall like a man waiting for a train that isn't coming. "I'm sorry," he said again. "This is not how I wanted. I wasn't going to say anything. I've almost crashed into you all 3 times today and—" "You chose now," Jack said. His voice wasn't shaking. That scared me more than if it had. "I didn't choose it," Ben said, and then had the decency to let the sentence hang there like a confession that didn't earn forgiveness. "How long?" Emma asked, not looking at Ben. Looking at Linda. "How long is a while?" Linda swallowed. 2 years, she said. Her voice landed carefully, like stepping on stones to cross a river. "On and off. It ended. It was a mistake." Ben closed his eyes. "It ended messy," he said. "It ended because you—" He stopped. "I'm sorry," he said for the 1,000th time. "You don't get to narrate," I said. I didn't raise my voice. He shut up. "Were we little?" Emma asked. She was 20, and right then she was 5, and I was 33 with my first mortgage and a second job and not enough sleep. "Were Jack and I were we kids?" "No," Linda said, and in a terrible way I was relieved. Not because it made the story less ugly, but because the younger the picture in your head, the harder it is to look at your own face in the mirror. "You were in high school." I don't have a defense that doesn't sound like an insult." Jack looked at me like a map. I didn't have one. My chest hurt in that dull way that means nothing dramatic is happening yet. Something is breaking quietly. The hallway ate our words. People passed by, carrying empty trays, their eyes sliding over us with that sympathy afforded to strangers who look like they're in a play you don't want to interrupt. The youth group photos showed teenagers from summers ago, arms around each other, sunburned and happy. It irritated me. Ben, to his credit or his stupidity, started to speak and then stopped. He nodded at me, a gesture of respect he hadn't earned, and said, "I should go," to Linda, not to me. The thought of him remaining in the building made my hands itch. He stepped away. Emma's voice followed him without volume, only precision. "Did you know about us?" she asked. "Did you know about our dad?" Ben turned. "Yes," he said. "I knew. And I was wrong." He left. It was the first right thing he'd done in the building. We stood in the silence he left behind. It wasn't fragile. It was dense, the kind of quiet that settles on everything like dust you can't blow off. Linda pressed her fingers into her forehead the way you do when you're trying to press back a headache. Jack looked at me like I could put the furniture back. "I didn't tell you," Linda said, and nobody answered, because the sentence had nowhere to go but into the garbage. "I didn't tell you because I thought," she broke off. Emma's jaw set in a way I recognized from myself. "Don't offer reasons. Don't offer me your thoughts." Jack spoke first. "I need air," he said, and walked toward the door, too fast for good manners and too slow to count as a scene. Emma pushed off the wall and followed him. Linda reached out, then pulled back. I didn't reach for her and I didn't reach for them. It felt like the moral of a story I hadn't agreed to. Outside, the sky had the audacity to be bright. People smoked at the far end of the parking lot, looking like they were in an old movie. Jack leaned against the hood of my car. Emma sat on the curb, picking at a crack in the asphalt with the toe of her shoe. They didn't look at me. Linda stayed inside, because that's where most of the damage had been done. I stood next to Jack and looked at the trees like they might have advice. "You okay?" I asked, stupidly. "No," he said, honestly. Emma laughed, a barking sound. "What a place," she said. "What a time." She shook her head. "Derek would have hated this." "He would have made a joke," I said. "He always did," Jack said. "We didn't rush. We made a plan only families who have been through other plans understand. We would go back in to say the right goodbyes to the right people. We would not make a scene that would force Derek's kids to remember our mess at their father's funeral. We would go home, the four of us in separate cars if we needed to, and we would sit with the quiet until it got loud enough to make choices." Inside, the parish hall had resettled into its normal buzz. You could almost pretend nothing had happened because, for most of the people there, nothing had. Linda was by the kitchen door with a glass of water. Joan, our friend of 25 years, with a laugh that carries, caught my eye and raised her eyebrows in the way of women who can read a room without the subtitles. I shook my head an inch. "Not now." She nodded. That was love. We said our thank yous and it was beautifuls and call me if you need anythings. The words felt like pebbles I had to carry in my pockets. I caught Linda's eye once. She looked smaller than she had that morning, smaller than she's been since the kids were tiny and we were too. She mouthed "I'm sorry" again. I must have made a face because she stopped. At home, the house did that thing where it decides to be a mirror. Every room reflected a feeling back at you you didn't want. The living room was all we used to sit here and laugh. The kitchen was here as where we kept bread and secrets. Jack sat at the dining table and pretended to scroll his phone. Emma stood at the sink and stared out the window like the yard might produce an explanation. Linda put her bag on the counter and then moved it 3 inches to the left and then back, because you can't fix a life but you can straighten objects. She looked at me and I felt the old muscle memory of stepping toward her. I didn't. "I need to say this," she said. "Even if it doesn't change anything. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. I'm not going to say I didn't mean to hurt you because that's what you say when you didn't. You're trying to make it prettier. I was lonely and angry and bored and stupid and then I was selfish. I told myself a story where I got to have something that was mine and mine alone because I was so tired of being part of everything. It's not a reason. It's just the name of the sickness." Emma closed her eyes and let out a breath like a whistle left on a stove. Jack didn't move. "I ended it," Linda said. "Before today. Before, this is not a current situation. It's an old one that didn't want to stay buried." She laughed without humor. "Fitting." I sat down because standing felt like a lodge. "Why today?" I asked. "Why here?" "I didn't invite him," she said, and I believed her. "You saw it. He showed up." Like guilt. Like a bad penny. I haven't seen him in years. I swear it. I nodded. It's possible for something to be true and useless at the same time. Jack looked up, finally. I don't want to talk about it like we're all in the same class, he said. I don't want to be in the group assignment called Mom's Bad Choices. You don't have to be, I said. We'll do our parts separately. We'll figure it out. The words felt like a ladder thrown down a well. Emma turned from the window. Her eyes were wet but her voice was steady. I'm staying at Mia's tonight, she said. Mia is her roommate from school who has the good sense to have parents who forget to ask how late she'll be. I can't be here. That's fine, I said. Do you need a ride? I'll take my car, she said, wiping her face like it had spilled something. Jack stood. I'm going to Mike's, he said, which is a place men go when they're 23 and need to sit on a couch with other men who won't ask questions and will hand them beers. I'll be back tomorrow. Okay, I said. They left like people leaving a party that ended without permission. The house took a breath and made itself bigger around the two of us. Linda stood there like she didn't know whether to stay or flee. For the first time in a long time, I saw the 19-year-old who let me copy her notes in Intro to Sociology, the one who told me I'd be better at listening if I stopped deciding what people meant before they finished their sentences. I love that girl and I love this older, meaner version, and love is not a defense and not a plan and not a solution. It's a bag you carry because it's yours. I can go to my sister's, she said, and I found I didn't want her to decide for me. I said, and then stopped. I don't know what I need. She nodded. I'll pack a bag, she said. A small one. She walked down the hall and I listened to the drawers open and close, the sound of a life reduced to zippers. She came back with a tote and a sweater over her arm and a face we had made together over years of saving and spending grace. At the door she turned. I'm going to call a therapist, she said. For me. For we can. If you want. I know if is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Okay, I said. It was the only word I had. She left. The house released a sound like a sigh you pretend is the pipes. I sat at the table where we have eaten 12,000 meals and stared at nothing and everything. The note on the fridge about picking up more milk became the oldest handwriting in the world. People texted. Beautiful service. You okay? He would have loved the stories. We're here. I answered the ones that required answers. I didn't answer the ones that were prayers disguised as questions. I went to the garage and took a walk without leaving the building. I picked up a hammer and put it down. I moved a box. I stood there and let the cold in. Later, Jack texted, "You good?" I wrote, "No." "You?" He wrote, "Same." It was the best conversation I had all day. Emma sent a heart and then a picture of the cat Mia's mother owns that looks like it has secrets. "Love you, Dad," she wrote. I sat with that for a long time. 3 words can fill a room. I fell asleep on the couch because beds are promises and I didn't have any to make. Sometime around midnight, the house creaked like a ship and I dreamed about Derek's laugh and Ben's careful suit and Linda's hand dropping from our daughter's shoulder. I woke up with the taste of coffee that hadn't been made yet. In the morning I made coffee anyway. I texted the kids, "Pancakes here at 10 if you want." Jack sent a maybe that means yes. Emma sent running late that means also yes. At 10:30 they were at the table, hair messy, faces younger again because the day had changed its mask. We ate pancakes. We didn't talk about the funeral and we didn't talk about Linda and we didn't talk about Ben. We talked about the dishwasher's new wine and the neighbor's Christmas lights going up too early and how the dog at Mike's house has learned to open doors. "Are you okay?" Emma asked me, after. She is my face with better skin and my habit of letting the question carry more than it should. "No," I said. "But I'm here." She nodded like a deal had been proposed and accepted. Jack rinsed plates. The sun did its job. The morning made its slow promises. I don't know what happens next. People who tell you they do are either lying or in possession of time machines. I know this: we will go to therapy and to the grocery store. We will make lists. We will tear up lists. We will argue about the dryer's lint trap and about how much information is too much information. We will sit with the cold, quiet truth that arrived in a hallway on a day when we thought we were safe from personal history. The friend we buried used to say grief makes everything else look honest. He wasn't wrong. In the bright, stupid light of the parish hall, a piece of our past wanted attention. It took it. It didn't shout. It didn't throw a glass. It just cleared its throat and entered the room at a terrible time, and that's the part of the story I can't get over. There are no good times for truth like that. There is only the time you get. If you'd asked me yesterday what I am, I'd have said husband, father, friend. Today I say father first because that's the thing that didn't shift when the rest of the furniture slid. I'm not a saint. I'm not a martyr. I'm a man with adult children who needed his face to hold. I gave them that. It's not nothing. Linda will come back with her bag and her therapist's number and her apology spelled with nouns. We will decide whether to accept the inventory. We will decide whether to try to build again. We will decide who gets which chair and how to do Thanksgiving and whether we can stand to be in the same room when the kids tell a story that starts with "Remember when." We will not decide all of it at once. I put Eric's program on the mantle next to a picture of the four of us at the lake the summer before the kids were too big to care about the doc. In the picture, Linda's head is thrown back in a laugh. I don't know how to live with that and with this at the same time. But people have, and do. We will do the ordinary things until they carry us, or at least until they don't make us fall. The house is quiet now, the good kind, the kind that says nap instead of danger. I'm going to make chili because that's what I do when I don't know the ending. I'm going to text Linda to tell her Jack has her old college sweatshirt and Emma took the spare charger. I'm going to check the weather and pretend it matters. I'm going to sit at the table and make a list that starts with call therapist and buy milk and fix that front step. We'll see what the truth does when it's fed and given a chair. We'll see what we become next. For now, I'm here. That has to be enough until we know what enough means. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.